Okay, it's 11 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining today. We're going to get into the world of content marketing. So today's webinar is called Building and Managing a Content Marketing Strategy, which has a lot of different layers to it, but we'll work through it. And at any time, if you have questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A. I will likely address them at the end of this presentation, but we will come back to them. This presentation is being recorded and you will get the slide deck after the presentation. I'm Rachel Majors also. I'm a digital marketing consultant through ASBTDC in Fayetteville. And ASBTDC stands for the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. And we provide all types of for-profit businesses with confidential one-on-one consulting services. So that can look like help with market research, help with your finances, marketing, target audience work. It really ranges and truly depends on the client. So if you're not already a client, we would love to talk to you, and you can learn more and sign up on our website through sbtdc.uark.edu. Just a little bit about me. I've worked with the center almost 5 years at this point. So I've gotten to work with a lot of different clients throughout the area, which is really special to me. I'm from here, came back over 10 years ago, and just really love being in the area. We're big cyclists and outdoors people, so usually outside somewhere with my husband and dogs and either biking or hiking or just enjoying everything that Northwest Arkansas has to offer. And I think that working with small businesses just helps me feel really connected to our community here. And I think we live in a really unique part of the state that truly values small businesses. And I'm always happy to work with you guys. So thanks for joining me today. My background has been kind of more in the back end of digital marketing. So I really focus in analytics, budget optimization, search engine optimization or SEO, and then a lot of content marketing and planning in that area. Throughout, the last 10 years, it's ranged a lot, but I've always taken a content marketing approach to anything I've done, whether B2B or B2C. So we can talk about the ranges there, but part of content marketing as well is always understanding what's working. So I love digging into analytics and seeing how we can take that agile marketing approach and kind of shift our content planning through analytics as well. And if you're interested in learning more about marketing analytics, I have a webinar coming up next month, I believe. So keep your eyes out for that and sign up if you like. So today we're talking about a lot, and it will likely feel overwhelming because most digital marketing is overwhelming because there's so many options. But basically the idea for today is to kind of step it out, understand, where you're at now, where you can go in a reasonable way, and kind of step up your marketing efforts in a way that is sustainable and that you're learning from. So all the tactics we'll be discussing today are organic or free. We love free. Steps for building a content marketing strategy, how to identify channels based on your target audience, establishing your content pillars, setting goals that are reasonable for your business, some organizational tips, and then common channels for small business owners that are effective, including social media, Google Business, email marketing, blog posts, and videos or podcasting. So what is content marketing and why does it feel so overwhelming? Basically, content marketing is kind of the goal is to attract and retain customers. So a lot of content marketing works around understanding what is valuable to your target audience and speaking to them in a way that builds connection and trust, and a lot of the times education. And so most of our content marketing is not selling. It's not a lot of direct sales content, but it's making you seem like a trusted source to your current customers so that they feel connected with you and want to expand that relationship, recommend you. They feel like you provide content that is valuable to them. They know if they're on your page or channels that they're going to learn something or that it resonates with them. So some of the benefits for small businesses is it helps build brand awareness. So a lot of content marketing too, is not you make a post, you make a sale. That works for certain industries like, e-commerce most of the time. But outside of that, it's kind of building this story, which is really important and we'll talk about throughout this. Allows you to connect with a range of customers. So another part of content marketing is kind of this 360 idea of marketing. A lot of your consumers are all going to interact with content in very different ways. And so if you're kind of taking this approach where you're using email marketing, you're using Google Business, you can be found in search, you're on social media, you're hitting these different platforms where you can interact with your customers in multiple different ways, versus just focusing on one area, basically. Helps you nurture your customer relationships, keeps you top of mind in a busy media world. Like think about how much we are advertised to and all this media that we have access to and that we can consume. If you are not getting in front of your customers and potential customers and staying up to date in content, someone else is. And so that's part of it too. Establishes your expertise, improves SEO, search engine optimization. So I teach other courses on SEO, but basically it's not just what you put on your website and in the back of your website. SEO has a bunch of different sources. And so by using effective content marketing, you got to start building up these Google points, and start reinforcing your messaging and keywording across different channels that Google is indexing as well and pulling from, to get a general understanding of your website and when to serve for certain keywords and searches. And then it's cost effective. Like time is an expense, but at the same time, most content marketing is free. So you're not putting actual cash into it unless you start, doing some paid advertising as well. But the core of content marketing is supposed to be free. And then some misconceptions are it's just blogging, it's only for big businesses, or it, proves instant results. And those are misconceptions we can kind of break down throughout this, but it's different for every industry, and that's where setting clear expectations and goals for our specific industries, understanding our target audience, really knowing what's going on in our own business ecosystem for what our customers connect to is really important for efficacy. And then this stat just always kind of shocks me that on average, Americans consume 6 hours of content every day, with Gen Z consuming almost 7. So that is a lot of our time. And if you can do it effectively, you can get in front of those customers. It feels overwhelming to most people, including me, who's done this for over a decade, because there's so many different options and approaches to it. And this is supposed to be an eye chart just to say, like, hey, I'm with you on this. I know that as a small business owner, you're getting marketed to all the time by people who can do this for you or make it easier or saying that you need to do more all the time. And at the end of the day, we have a limited amount of time and resources and capacity, honestly. And so most of the time you can focus in on doing a few channels really well, that we know resonate with your target audience and that work for your business and your industry. And if we want to scale up from there, we can. But if we are starting across 10 different platforms all at one time and we're just feeling so stretched, we're not going to be doing any one of those well. And customers start to feel that, and you will start to feel that too. So our first steps in developing a content strategy are setting our clear goals. So, are we trying to increase website traffic, generate leads? Are we trying to get direct sales? Do we need more membership signups? Are we trying to, get more traffic to our dinner service at our restaurant? It's really going to depend. So back up from your annual planning goals for your business and understand kind of and break out what those look like, and how marketing can play into that. And that's normally a good way to kind of start at that top of funnel and work it down to understand what can actually get you there in a reasonable way. Identify your target audience. So who are our actual customers? Who do we want to attract? Your current customer can be different than the customer that you want to attract. I think that is something very important and very critical in your content strategy. Just through certain language, positioning, certain products and services that you're putting out there can attract different potential clients. So think about it in that way as well. We always want to conduct a content audit. So if we have our goals, we have our clear target audiences now. Has our current content and our past content been fitting into those goals? And does it reach the target audience that we want? If not, we need to adjust that strategy, maybe reevaluate our content pillars, which we'll get into, and then maybe make a shift, try something new. A/B testing, kind of that test and see, test and fail is always really valuable. And then choose your content types and channels. So if you're just starting out, I normally recommend doing about 3 platforms or content marketing tactics well and learning from it, scaling up from there. If you're currently already on marketing platforms, there's a few different ways we'll talk about evaluating your current channels, but some channels might be taking a ton of your time and energy and the return is not there, or it's not actually matching up with your goals, or you might be spending a lot of time on a platform that actually isn't the best place to reach your target audience. So if you've already chosen your channels, we can always reevaluate them. Create a content calendar, smart organization, letting you see what the month or the quarter or just even the week looks like. Then implementing your plan and diversifying your channels and staying up to date. Staying up to date is really important because content marketing, we're already managing multiple different channels, but at the same time, a lot of those channels are very algorithm based. We're so reliant on technology in our marketing that we have to make sure that we know what we need to be doing on Instagram, what's important to stay active in the algorithm. They just made some changes. We all saw the TikTok back and forth. And so just being aware of the benefits of certain channels, anything that could impact your business, and then keeping your platforms diversified just helps you be able to be in a different place if something were to happen with a different platform. So we can talk more about that in social media, but kind of like diversifying your portfolio, the more that you can have an audience across different channels, the more you can adapt when you need to. So your target audience is something that is, I think everyone needs to start here, whether you have been in business for 10 years or you're just starting. I like to start with like, who do you want to attract? Who is your ideal customer? What do they look like? How do they interact? What are their habits? What is important to them? And kind of break them down as personas. And there's a few different ways to do this that I've included that you can link out to here, but start thinking, how can you make it easy for them to incorporate your product or service or business into their life? What makes them drive a purchase or a sign up or an interaction with your business? And really knowing our target audience, and you can have 3, 4, however many that you think is reasonable for your business, as long as you know them from a persona and very deep profile perspective, you can really start tailoring your content to them. And part of this goes into your brand voice too. Different target audiences will react differently to different language. And so always something good to be aware of, and really study your target audience and understand their interaction with your content. This is something too that we help with through the Small Business Center. So we have some really great consultants who do a lot of brand discovery, discovery research to kind of help you with these profiles. And then we also have really strong market research. So if you know that your target audience is a certain age, they're a certain demographic, in a certain industry, we can get really strong market research and really help you with a lot of this to narrow down understanding where they're at, where they spend their time. So once we know about our target audience, what they value, and how they interact, where they interact, we can start to establish our content pillars, which are basically kind of these bigger ideas of topics that we will be focusing on throughout our content channels. So these are just a few different examples, and I know there's a lot on here, but also serves so that you guys can reference this later. So, between educational, industry expertise, problem solving, it's really going to depend on your business type and your target audience. Some of these are very clear where like thought leadership can be, thought leadership might work better for B2B than it does B2C sometimes. So really it's just going to depend on your business vertical and what works for you. But most of the time you're kind of picking, maybe 2 or 3 of these and saying, okay, once a week we kind of give like a problem solving post where maybe we answer something in the FAQ or tips and advice, something like that. We also always do a behind the scenes. So what is our team doing? A spotlight, day in the life, company update, and then maybe we mix in educational with like a how-to guide or tips and tricks. It depends there. If you're a very product-oriented business like e-commerce, or you're trying to drive core retail sales, like brick and mortar sales, it's going to look very different. You're going to be very product focused. Normally, the mix is about 60-40 between trying to sell direct and then trying to help your customers interact with your content as well. So no one reacts very well to being sold to all the time. So we do have to continue to create content that encourages interaction and engagement and makes our customers feel like they're part of the business versus always feeling like we need or want something from them. I'm going to check the chat really fast. And just a reminder, I'm going to try to stay focused on this presentation, and I will answer any questions in the chat after. So I see them if they're coming in, and I appreciate that. So next, this would just kind of be an idea of how we could incorporate a few different content pillars across a few different types of businesses, which I was just kind of mentioning. But if I'm a restaurant, I might choose that I'm going to have educational, behind the scenes, customer focus, product service showcase, and my community lifestyle. And that's going to look different between my restaurant, a boutique, and my financial advisor. And so this just kind of breaks it out so that you can get an idea of the difference of the content topics and how you could have the same content pillars as many other businesses, but that your content topics could look completely different. And these kind of start spanning across social media. If you do any type of like webinars, podcasts, your email, most of the time it works best for all of our content to kind of come up into these pillars so that we know that we're staying true to our business, our brand positioning, and always, delivering content that we've researched as valuable to our target audience. And then we can always audit our content marketing assets. So what channels are we creating content for today? What takes the most time? Do they actually reach your target audience? Is your content using effective messaging? for your target audience. Does your content fit into your pillars and reflect your goals? Are you measuring the impact of content appropriately? So these are all kind of, this is the lens I take when I'm doing my client reviews through the center. And you can do the same for yourself. So if you kind of, after this, you might go look at your Instagram, like, we've been really focused in this one area of messaging, and I just don't think that's it for us. If we're trying to drive more direct sales, or, oh, we've really been wanting to get people to our website so that they can learn more about our business and sign up for our newsletter, and that's our main goal right now, but our content hasn't been pushing them to the website. So all of these little questions you can ask yourself and identify maybe some areas for improvement. Maybe you're doing great, and this is another great way to gut check that you're on the right track, that customers and, potential customers are still interacting with your content. I think that's probably one of the biggest things right now, is that while you're a small business owner, you are managing so many parts of your business. Marketing is just one piece, but it's often the most time consuming. And you need to be an expert about all these algorithmic changes and, trying to play the game on what Instagram likes. And so being able to audit this and see, even post by post, or email by email, kind of dissecting that subject line or preview text, seeing what people are clicking out on, certain website pages that people are interacting with. All of these engagement and interaction metrics are really important right now. And then we want to set realistic goals. So what actually matters for your business? What is the goal of each channel? What are your current average metrics? So creating a benchmark for yourself is really important. If we don't know what we currently get out of certain platforms, or what our website analytics look like, what our email open rate and click-through rates are, then we don't have any gauge for content outside of that is good, or, could be better. So it's always really important to say, okay, for the past year, here's what our email metrics have looked like. Here's our average monthly website user count. Here's our average monthly views. Really understand. I like to at least understand it from month over month, or, campaign perspective. Because if we don't know what to expect, then we don't have that gauge of when something performs really well or when something underperforms. And then it's much harder to learn from all of your efforts. And then what feels reasonable to achieve on each platform with your resources and time. Time is a big asset, honestly. Like, if you're really, really trying to invest your time in a certain platform, but that's taking up 50% of your time every week, I would probably suggest reevaluating that, because you're doing so many other things. So I think for what feels reasonable, like if we're setting goals that are like, grow our Instagram following by 80%, that would be a cool number to meet. But if we're setting ourselves up for failure, then we also often get discouraged and move on. So I think understand what sustainable growth looks like, understand what your overall business goals look like, and then kind of break it out from there, to understand what each platform and marketing channel can provide to get you towards those goals. So sometimes 10% growth is really, really valuable. If you're seeing really high increases year over year over year, at some point that might top out. So have it be reasonable, where you're like, okay, we've seen 40% growth for the past 3 years. Kind of do the analysis there to be like, is it reasonable to grow my website website users 40% for a 4th year, or do I need to reevaluate and understand that 20% might be ideal for this year, and then back up your channels from there. And then setting your content goals by week, month, and year. So this kind of filters down from your overall marketing goals, but maybe it's one blog post a month, if that is part of one of the channels and pieces of content that you know your target audience values. Maybe it's 10 to 15 social media posts, 2 email newsletters, and a video. And just kind of knowing what you need to do each month to maintain your engagement across channels. Maintenance is very important in a lot of content marketing. And then what do you need to maybe push it a little bit more to make sure that you're getting in your content pillars and those important messages out to your target audience. We don't want to limit ourselves automatically, but we also don't want to feel like we need to get 50 posts out a month if 50 is not a number that is reasonable for our time and also is likely going to overwhelm our target audience. So there's a little bit of the sweet spot. And I think staying tuned into your analytics is really important too. Most of the time you can see very quick drop down or that uptick depending on the content. Then getting organized is a big part of this because there is so much going on. If you're managing your email marketing and you're trying to get 10 or 15 posts out a week and you need to make a video, it's really important to just have a view of, I like a month at least, and break it down from there so that you know what your checklist and to-do list looks like every week. I like keeping a content idea database, so that can just be a Word doc or a notes on your phone, or you could have it in a spreadsheet if that's what works for your team. But we'll talk about some ideas for content ideation. But when things come to you, just put them somewhere. I think that's the biggest thing where ideas rarely come to us when we're really sitting down and being like, I need to brainstorm content for this week. Most of the time it comes from interacting with our customers, answering messages or DMs, certain email inquiries that we're getting. And so a lot of the time, if we're really aware of our customer environment and kind of have a good pulse on the business in that way, I think that a lot of content ideas can come from that. And then using a content calendar, so just creating a view, and I'll show you an example of that in a minute. And then tag your ideas by your theme or category or content pillars, basically. Just make sure, they're fitting with what you need. If they aren't, then we maybe reevaluate that and say, okay, there's a reason for this. We need to make this communication to our target audience, but we understand that it's not necessarily a content pillar that we have deemed as being really important for our target audience. So you might change your expectation of that type of content or post just to say, this is something we need out in the world, but we're not expecting great engagement from it. Just so you don't see some posts that you're like, that was so low. People will still see it, but having that expectation for engagement of certain other types of content is important. This is a content calendar example. So these can look 100 different ways. Stick with something that works for yourself or your team, whoever is helping with your content planning. There's a lot of different templates online. HubSpot has, I love HubSpot. They're really like a huge leader in the content marketing world, and I've worked in their systems for a really long time. And they have some really great calendar templates that I've linked here when you get the deck. But you can kind of see in the color code, those are kind of their like content pillars that they've deemed. You make those for yourself, but just you can see throughout the calendar that they kind of start to have a rhythm with what they're posting and the different content types. So to create compelling content, there's a few ways that you can get ideas, and this will really range. Like I said before, I really love staying in tune with customer interactions. So this can come from inquiries, FAQ, social media comments, surveys, polls, reviews, testimonials, or just one-on-one conversations that you're having. These can range where you collect this from, but like when I used to run a B2C website, I added a little form at the checkout. It's like, how did you hear about us? that is free data that you can get. And most of the time, people would tag, be like, I heard about you from so and so on Instagram, and or I saw you on this magazine, I saw you here. And so that starts to give you really good data of like, okay, Instagram, these influencers are a good investment. Um, we will continue to work with them. We'll continue to use Instagram as a content platform. All these things can kind of validate you or allow you to shift. Also allows you to create really great content that speaks directly to either something customers love or something they might need a little bit more help with understanding. So if you're getting like a ton of DMs saying, hey, what time are you open? Or are you open on Saturday? Maybe it's great to just make a post of a reminder of your hours and the days that you're open. Make sure your Google business is up to date. Um, at the same time, if people maybe ask about a specific product or service and it's over and over and over again, my rule is kind of if you've gotten the same question about 3 times, it's probably time to either put it in an FAQ or make a post about it. And it doesn't have to be so direct where it feels really targeted. But if 1 to 3 people have a question that they're willing to ask, probably other people in your audience have it as well, and they're not asking. And so if it's never being answered for them, it can kind of start to put a barrier up. Customer pain points, again, maybe people just don't understand a certain part of your business or your differentiator. There's always a way to kind of back it up from content where you can educate and inform um, based on a pain point as well. Or maybe you know that your business fills a certain customer pain point. Maybe one of your differentiators is you're in an industry where a lot of your competitors maybe aren't reliable, they don't show up on time, they have poor communication practices, and maybe you fit all 3 of those things, and those are core differentiators for your business. Making a post that addresses those things of like, here are things that we value when working with our customers and kind of lists those out, just puts it out into the world and kind of starts to build that trust. Trends, whether seasonal social media or industry trends, addressing them, one, helps with algorithm, but two, most of the time your customers are kind of expecting that or know trends or are looking for certain trends depending on the type of business. And if you can get in front of them and say, hey, we have this specific type of dress or shoe or whatever that's trending for spring, they can choose to shop with you over another business or a bigger business. A competitive analysis. So, are you aware of what your competitors are looking at, what they're posting, what they're putting out there, how they're messaging? Most of the time, customers are researching a few different businesses before they ever make a decision, especially if you're in the more service or membership based category. So, that's always important. Um, Events and promotion, just making your followers and just the internet aware of what's going on so that if you're having an event or promotion, that your current customers know about it, but also it's always a great way to attract new customers, invite people who have maybe never interacted with your business out. And then repurposing existing content. So if you're putting effort into blog posts and videos and some longer form content, how can you think of that to break it down into a few Instagram posts? What can you pull from that to make a nice reel or a TikTok, or even just an Instagram story? Maybe you're finding that a piece of this video would make a good website copy edit or addition. Start to think in the different ways that you can use singular pieces of content as well and creating that evergreen content that can really start to work for you across a lot of different platforms. AI platforms are, increasingly important, and I feel like we're hearing about them a lot. Claude or ChatGPT are a few that I think are really nice for just helping you kind of create content ideas. Being a small business owner means you're usually spending a lot of time just kind of talking to yourself for ideas are staying in your head and it's really hard to kind of get feedback, or that's what I found in my freelance business. And so going to an AI platform, like I like Claude for marketing content and language more, but you can kind of just talk back and forth and be like, hey, I'm a business owner in this industry. What type of content is important on Instagram? You can tell it about your target audience. You can tell it who you're trying to reach, what you're struggling with. Kind of like a little marketing therapist, but it is helpful just to either validate what you're doing or kind of give you an idea every once in a while that um, maybe you just haven't had time to think about or interact with. Um, I do always just give a caution that if you're using a free version of one of these, it is not private. So never put any, specific business or financial information into an AI platform unless you are sure that you are using like an enterprise account or um, a certain level of a paid account that gives you that security. Um, Anything that you put into an AI platform can be used to train a system if you're on the free version. So um, be aware of that. They're great in a lot of different areas, but still don't put your sensitive data in. And then kind of create some idea evaluation criteria. I think it's always great to, brainstorm with your team once a month, or if you are in Claude and you're kind of going back and forth with AI, like it might give you some ideas that aren't actually aligned with what you know about your target audience and your business goals, and you can inform it of that, but just kind of create some criteria to say, like, that actually isn't going to be effective for us. Maybe it's too heavy in resources or budget needed. What is the potential engagement or conversion from this? This allows you to kind of cut out some posts that might not be effective, but also just set expectations as well. Um, so just a few best practices continued here. Focus on your expertise, mix up your content types, understand what's working best across different platforms and algorithms. Keep your ideas relevant to your audience, audience or audiences. Balance promotional and value content. So with this, we need to be considering our customer buying cycle, product complexity, industry expectations, and our customer education needs. Develop eye-catching visuals, persuasive copy, and clear CTAs. So most of the time in content marketing, I like to have a little line at the end of like an Instagram post, depending on what you're trying to do, right? So if you're trying to drive membership signups, like, hey, we are accepting new members right now. Visit us at businesswebsite.com to get your free 7-day trial or something. And if you're kind of putting that, you kind of have your little one-liner at the end of post. It works as your CTA, but it also starts to build this familiarity of what to expect. At the end of post, we can't expect every follower to see every single post. So if we're being consistent in at least kind of one way, that can be really helpful. Ensure that your content aligns with your brand voice and resonates with your target audience. So customers know when things don't feel very authentic to your brand. Especially I find that small business customers are very loyal. And so we always want to reevaluate and make sure that we're being consistent in our connection points with our customers. And then A and B testing. So pick one element at a time to test, like subject line for your email. If you're going to test your subject line, let that be the one thing that you are trying differently. Don't change your preview text, don't your email body, don't try to get people to click out on a ton of new things. If you're changing too many elements at a time for a specific test, you can't gather actual data that helps with that. So whether it's copy or CTA or a certain type of social media content, just pick one element, make a note of that, go back to it, evaluate it over a different type of content that you were testing against, and see how that impacted your engagement. And then we've kind of heard of this 80-20 rule, for educational or informative content versus sales. That varies by industry. So I would just encourage you to do some research on what is effective for your specific industry. Um, you know, e-commerce is going to be a lot heavier in that sales language than B2B normally is, and even service-based. So always letting your customers, you know what you want from them, but without um, being so direct and always feeling like you're marketing to what you need from them, can be a big differentiator. Some common content marketing channels that we talked about for social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube. There are several more. These are anything throughout this presentation is just normally what um, clients ask about or that are very reasonable and easier to manage for small businesses. With social media, I would very rarely, say go out of the gates managing 5 different profiles. That is where you need to know your target audience. If you are an e-commerce site and you're trying to sell clothes or, more retail-based items, like having a business LinkedIn profile that you're spending a lot of time on is probably not that effective. Having your personal profile on LinkedIn and posting there every once in a while is good, but not a main, just, having that understanding that it's not a main channel for your business. YouTube is showing up a bit more um, because of honestly just Google's through the enhancement of AI, search engines are kind of changing some of the content that they're valuing. Another channel that I don't have listed here, but that I have been recommending to more clients lately is Reddit as well. So more user-generated content and video content is showing up in search more. Search is not a main channel for every business. So I think understanding, what that impact is can help you make some decisions too with these social channels, just based on how search engines are prioritizing them now. Um, Google Business is one I will always recommend to small business owners. It's free. It's another Google platform, so the search engines like it. It's also much easier and quicker to optimize for local search, and just making sure people can find you. If it also goes through Google Maps as well. So if you have a business that people physically visit, it's very important to have your Google Business profile, keep all of your hours up to date. If you have to close the shop at 2 p.m. to go pick up a sick child from school, you can adjust that and just make sure that customers aren't showing up. I know that's a little indirect for content, but it's still content that is really important to your target audience, and lets people know that that is a reliable source of business information. Um, Email marketing or SMS marketing that can range. Many businesses do email and SMS together. Again, that's your target audience. Some of your target audience work there to understand what's going to be effective. And then your website. Website copy in general, your pages, services, products, in addition to your blog. Blogging is not effective for all businesses, and so that's a range too. Like just blogging to blog, it does not have a lot of impact. If you have specific thought leadership, you have a certain take on something in the industry that helps inform your customer and your search engines and kind of, you know, the internet, that can be really effective, but it it isn't something to spend a lot of time on for certain businesses, and I think that's important to know. Um, if we're going to be spending all this time across content marketing channels, we want to be sure that we have the tools set up to evaluate the effectiveness of them. So we always want to make sure we're paying attention to website traffic. My favorite tool for that is Google Analytics 4. Many of your platforms will also have them, whether you're on Shopify or Squarespace, Wix, WordPress. I just like having Google Analytics 4 installed in addition to any web platform specific analytics tools, because if you were to ever change your web platform, like how you host your website, you would still have that historical data through Google Analytics 4. It's not something you have to actively manage all the time, but if it's not installed, then you don't have that historical data. It's important for our benchmarking. It kind of all waterfalls back down. Google Search Console is where you need to make sure your site has been submitted to Google, and that just gives you some more keyword specific information. Again, these are all things that get into other courses that I teach, but again, that historical data, making sure Google knows to index your site is really important. If you're spending time and money, energy on your website, and you don't know if something's going wrong, something's broken, if your pages aren't even showing up in search, that can be a bummer. Engagement rates, so across social media, email, what is reasonable? What are your goals? Where do you want to get to? Lead generation, conversion rates, and then adjusting your strategy based on data. So these are all very industry specific as well, but understanding what lead generation means for you. For some businesses, it's like newsletter signups, keeping people aware. For some people, it's direct sales, trials, really depends. So important to define that for your business. Some of our best practices across content marketing channels. So social media, tailor it to the platform. So make sure that even just your graphics and your formatting works for every platform. They're all a little different. Use a mix of photos, graphics, and videos. Encourage engagement. And then understand optimal posting times for your account. And that can normally just be found in your platform insights. Blog posts, so we always want to create compelling headlines, have a clear structure. A lot of people read in a way that we're skimming very quickly, so making sure that you have very clear headlines, that you have certain kind of list information bulleted out, subheadings. We just really want to avoid like huge bodies of text. Most of the time people just see that and leave, so that's not going to be an effective content structure. And then include a call to action. So if you have a blog post, they get to the end, what action do you want them to take next? Is it filling out a contact form? Is it signing up for a free trial? Is it signing up for your newsletter? Kind of make that a constant at the end of your posts. Video and podcast, so keep it concise and valuable. Most, we have shorter attention spans because we are consuming so much different media. So know what is reasonable for different types of video or audio content, and invest in, if you're going to be doing video and audio platforms, just make sure you have good quality customer or viewers, users, potential customers. They have so many options to interact with. If quality is an issue, normally there's someone else they can go to get the content, which is unfortunate, but we're not very patient most of the time. And then edit for value add and quality, and then be consistent with publishing. So if you're going to take a video or audio strategy, make sure that you get a post out every week or every 2 weeks. Don't try to avoid going 3 or 4 months without posting another video or podcast. Visual creation, so platforms like Canva to design your content and graphics. I love Canva because it's really affordable, but it also helps you so much with different layouts, and then you can upload all of your brand elements and keep all of your design really in brand. Always maintain your brand consistency, so making sure you're clear in the types of font that you're using and colors. As customers, we start to associate certain things with certain businesses, and if we're always using a lot of different fonts and colors, it's really hard to be scrolling through a feed and know that it's associated with a certain brand or company that we follow, and then design for your target audience. So, what is attractive to them? Think about layout, even speed of things. Visual design is very psychological. So it's good to take the lens of your target audience. At the end of the day, our content and our design is to attract our target audience. So we have to put ourselves in the lens of that customer. I'm running out of time here, so some of these we'll go through a little bit more, but again, just doing your research across platforms and knowing what is reasonable to make informed decisions. So this is just some demographic information, but if your target audience is super, super young, Facebook super young as in like Gen Z, Facebook might be less important to them than other channels. So just knowing the age range and benefits of each platform is really important. And I just break that down throughout here. And then knowing your peak post times, this is more general, just kind of an idea when most people are on different platforms, but you can get this data specific to your business through your platform insights. And so this is mostly if people are on during this time, they're interacting. As long as you can keep that interaction and engagement up, you should stay in people's feeds. That's where a lot of the consistency comes in, though, where if you're only posting once every 10 to 14 days, it's going to be really hard to come back in the algorithm and have people expect to engage with you. So part of it is getting in front of your target audience during this time. Part of it too is understanding when people have the potential to even engage with your content, which informs all of these systems that you serve content that people want to interact with, and they will continue to put you in feeds. Creating or using a social scheduling tool like Later or Planoly, or there are several, can help you automate some of this so that you have regular content going out. And then maybe you have 3 or 4 posts scheduled every week. You know what time they're going out, and then you're getting into the platform to interact with your messages and share all of your content to your stories, versus needing to be on the platform all the time, actually posting. And it's just kind of a pain sometimes to have to remember that. So some of the metrics that we'll look at for social media are engagement rate. So engagement ranges from likes, shares, follows, comments. Instagram now is really valuing the send feature. So, thinking of your content on Instagram in a way that it's like, is this valuable in a way that someone wants to share this with someone else? That's a metric that they kind of reworked to be really important on the platform. I'll send a resource as well for some of the algorithmic changes that Instagram just made. I think that's really important. And then reach and impressions. So are people actually seeing your content? Is it getting in front of people? Your click-through rate, and your conversion rate. So conversion, again, is it website traffic, link clicks, purchases, signups? Knowing what is normal for you now and where you want to get to, and just keeping that understanding that's going to be different for every industry. Google Business, I think we talked about a lot of this, but just best practices. You can have Google Business Profile without having a physical address that people can visit. You can hide the address there. So, say you're an accountant that works from home, you don't want your address on the internet, but you want to show up as an option when people are shopping for accountants, you can still have a Google Business Profile. Reviews are really important here. Reviews are content, in my opinion, because they're a huge, huge way that people make decisions. So even, responding to all reviews is a content channel, in my opinion, because you also get to show your customer service level. whether it's for a positive or a negative review. And then you can post to Google Business as well. So if you have some new menu items, or you're having a specific event, or you just launched a brunch special or something, adding photos and sharing from a post perspective on Google Business just keeps your profile up to date, and allows people to interact. Email marketing, so some best practices, set frequency for sending, whether it's once a month, every 2 weeks, once a week. It's going to depend on your industry and the call to action. Set clear messaging and pillars for your emails. And you can have a few different kinds depending. You might have one email newsletter that goes out once a month, but outside of that, you're doing some more action-based emailing. So like your welcome emails, promotional emails, abandoned cart emails, re-engagement emails as well. Like, hey, we've missed you, come back, shop with us. And just make sure you're not overwhelming people with email. If your engagement rates are super, super, super low, or people just really, people aren't opening, they're not clicking anymore, we probably need to rethink that strategy. Or we might just be overwhelming people with that type of content. Segmenting your email list is really important. Making sure you're getting the right content to the right customers. Really put effort into your subject lines and provide value. So what makes people want to open? Making sure we're not just emailing to email, and that we have content in there that people want to read and interact with. And then always make sure that your emails are optimized for mobile. In most of your email marketing tools, if you're in like MailChimp, Klaviyo, HubSpot, there are a ton. There are many specific to your POS as well. Just use the little view to look at it on a phone, and make sure that formatting isn't weird. Most of the time, it's going to be like images that get kind of wonky on a mobile device, and we might need to optimize that. So we look at a lot of things on our phone, and making sure that all of our content is optimized for the phone is very important. These are just a few, I'll leave these for you guys, but just a few different ways that you can run email marketing campaigns. Some of those ideas that we mentioned on the last slide. Again, you could do a newsletter once a month and then say, we're going to re-engage based on these actions, and have some of that automation working for you where you're not always needing to send an email yourself. Different metrics we look at: open rate, click-through rate, conversion rate, bounce rate, unsubscribe rate. So something here that I think is important from a content perspective is you send an email and your unsubscribe rate is really high. That is probably because we sent out content that isn't resonating with our audience, and maybe we've been doing that for a while. We should reevaluate that in a way. So keep an eye on your unsubscribe rate, and your open rate, obviously. But if people are not wanting our emails anymore, well, you need to pay attention to that. And remember that all of your metrics for email marketing will vary by your industry. So I included a few links in here of just, they have some cool little tools that you can go through and put your industry in, and it will tell you industry benchmarks. That kind of gives you an idea of if you're pretty far below that, maybe we have some work to do with our content to get people to re-engage. If you're way higher, then that's great. Probably keep doing what you're doing. You have a really engaged audience. Your content is valuable. Blog post planning. A lot of these practices go into it, but I would say do the research on the front end, and then make the actual content easy to engage and interact with. So, do you have time to blog, and is it valuable for your target audience? You might just need like 5 blog posts on your website that are super evergreen, that answer questions and inform your customers, and that have really strong search value, and those work for you, but you don't have to create a blog post once a week. So most of the time, it just goes back to what our target audience needs, and putting in some research there to understand what already exists from a blogging perspective online, and the value that we can add on top of that. This is just a company I admire out of Austin. I think they do a really good job with content marketing, so I would recommend just checking them out. I think their content pillars are very clear, and it's very obvious that their messaging goes throughout all of their pillars, in a way that they know they're speaking to their target audience, and they address things in a really informative and educational way. Okay, I had to speed up through some of that, sorry. Add your questions to the chat if you have them. I'm gonna go back and um, check the chat really fast. We had a question about market research. So if we've identified our target audience, does ASBTDC have resources for research? And yes, we have access to a few different market research platforms. And so you can sign up through our website to become a client, and we can help you with that and some of your positioning to make sure that you are meeting them. There will not be a certificate of completion sent out after this training. You will just get the recording and the deck. And then I see a question about identifying your target market demographic. Oh, sorry, still go. The question is, when identifying your target market demographics for B2B, would you target the business as a whole or the employee within who will hire you? If you want to send some clarification there, I think that just depends on your type of business, or you can email me or ask a question outside of this, but sorry, I think it just depends on your type of business and what you're trying to do. So I'm happy to address that specifically if you'd like. Perfect. Yeah, let's follow up on that one. Connor, I'd love to chat about it. Okay. That and yes, we can send a link to be a client in our follow-up email with these resources. And again, we'll send the deck and this recording, and I'll provide those Instagram algorithm updates as well. Okay, it looks like it's slowing down a bit, but thank you guys so much for attending and just letting me blab about content marketing to you. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any follow-up questions, please let us know. I'm happy to address it. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.